What's up, everybody? As you guys know, I'm a boxing coach. Well, right now I'm kind of retired because of my mom being sick, my elderly mom. But as most of you guys know, a real fighter doesn't gotta sit here and lie to anybody about anything. He tells it like it is. So I'm gonna tell it like it is, and I'm gonna share this story with you guys once again. Um, I've been living here in Vegas for many years now, since my last stint that I did incarcerated back in 2007 when I paroled. I moved to Compton, California for a year until I was able to get off parole, and then I moved to Las Vegas to start my boxing career because this is the home of the, of boxing. Las Vegas is the biggest show stage for professional boxing. And amateur, I also work with amateurs. Well, I did, in the past. I worked with amateurs and pros. And I had a girl that was living with me at the time, Candy. And when I left, Candy was because I was out working construction, building houses here in Vegas, and I would let her borrow my Buick while I was at work so she could get around. And one time I got off work and I was sitting in the lot, at the track homes that we were building here in Vegas out in the desert. And I was the last one to leave because she never showed up like she was supposed to pick me up, after work. So on my days off, I'm driving my Buick around town here, going, making errands, paying bills, and what have you. And I was working for Don Framing at the time, so I was making pretty good money, and I had to pay my cell phone bill, her cell phone bill, uh, you know, the light bill, and what have you. Pay the rent for the apartment that we were living in. So I hit the brakes at a stop sign and the pipe rolls down from behind the seat. And I said, oh, hell no. This girl is over here getting high while I'm at work, busting my butt. So I ended up driving her to the bus station, the Greyhound bus station downtown Las Vegas. And I sent her back to Cali, back to San Pedro, where she was from, to her mom. And as I'm driving down, after leaving her down the strip, I was kind of pissed off. I don't have friends out here. I'm a loner. I know a couple of people, but they're just people that hey, what's up, and that I associate with, that I'm not really friends with. But anyhow, um, so I was kind of like hurting for a little bit of company. So as I'm pulling up at the Caesar's Palace, because we lived a little bit past Caesar's Palace, some girl started flagging me down. Hey, come here. I need to talk to you. Please listen to what I got to say. And being that I just dropped her off, I said, shit, what the hell? I could use a little company. So I pull over and she tells me this story about she lost all her money at Caesar's Palace, which is right there next to the McDonald's parking lot that I pulled into. People that live here in Vegas know what I'm talking about. It's McDonald's, Caesar's Palace, right next to it. So she tells me if I could please drive her out of town to um, a ranch home that her sister owned out in the desert, a ranch style home. And I said, sure, why not? Get in, I'll drive you. And on the way there, she was pretty quiet. She really didn't have too much to say, and I really didn't either. So she says, hey, can you pull over at the 7-Eleven? We were like already way out of the outskirts of Vegas. And she tells me if I could pull over at the 7-Eleven there and buy her some beer and a pack of cigarettes, that she would pay me back. And I wasn't worried. Like I said, I was making good money. I had just done my income taxes. I had just got a big income tax return. So I had money. I didn't care. I said, you know what? Yeah, I'll buy you something to drink and some cigarettes. So I went in, bought them, came out, and she was bumping the sounds in my car. She was listening to old school sounds, uh, funk, what we call funk. the Barcades, Slide, Slave with them. I like that song Slide. I had that on a cassette, and at the time it was cassettes. It wasn't CDs, and Rolls Royce. Those types of songs. So I had a system in it, nice speakers and a nice cassette player in the car. So uh, as we're driving away, um, she started telling me to go out towards the Railroad Pass Casino, which is way out there. It's like the last. There's nothing after that. It's all desert. And so on the way, I told her, you know what, I'm not gonna go much further, ma'am, because we're like way out here. I could see Vegas. It was little tiny lights and cars. That's how far out we were. Like I said, people here in Vegas know what I'm talking about. That area up by Boulder City. So she says, no, no, it's right down this road right here. Just we're almost there. So I can see like little lights in the back. I don't know if it was part of the strip or what. I just saw little lights in the back. So I said, maybe, who knows, maybe she's telling the truth. Maybe we are getting closer. So we're driving down that dirt road. It's like dark as hell. You can't even see your hand in front of your face. That's how dark it was out there in the desert. There's nothing there. It's little tiny trees this big. That's it. As far as your eye can see, it's just empty desert. So I tell her, you know what, I'm not going much further. And she's like, no, no, just keep going. We're almost there. It's right down this road. And it was a dirt highway with nothing, no cement, nothing, just dirt. Soil. That's it, dirt road, off road. So I says, this is it. I'm turning around. She's like, wait, stop, hold up, let me drink my beer at least. And I told her, look, I can drop you up at the Railroad Pass Casino, which is right down there. It's nothing but truck drivers driving down that highway. It's dark as hell. That road that we were on, and it's nothing but, like I said, diesel trucks passing by. Those big, huge diesels. I said, I can drop you off at the Railroad Pass Casino because there's a truck stop there as well. And she was like, no, no, let me just drink my beer and smoke my cigarette. So she was smoking a Marlboro cigarette, Marlboro 100s that I bought her. And I wasn't really smoking at the time because now I do now, but because I'm not in the boxing gym. But at that time I was training plus working, training fighters and working at the same time. So I was at Johnny Doko's boxing. So as she gets off the car, she goes over to by a little tiny tree. Like I said, there's nothing but little tiny like cactus and shit out there in the desert. She goes back there to pee, and we're in the back seat, both of us, because she wanted to drink her beer and smoke. And like I said, I was hurting for conversation because I had just dropped my old lady off and left her at the Greyhound bus station and sent her home. So as she gets off the car, she goes behind these little tiny plants, like I said, and she's going pee. And I'm just looking forward, like giving her privacy. And a little while goes by, like 5 minutes, then a little bit longer than 5 minutes. And I said, man, I looked over and she was gone. And so I got off the car and I went over there by where she was, squatting down peeing. And I could see the cigarette, but it was real small already. Like, it wasn't a whole cigarette anymore. It was almost to the butt, cigarette butt, burning on the floor. The smoke, it's so dark out there, you could see the red cherry on the ground, right by the, filter. It was almost gone. And she vanished. She was gone. So what I did is, it's nothing there, no trees to obstruct your vision or anything. So I turned on my high beams and I went around in a circle. Excuse me. And as far as my headlights could see, there was nothing. She couldn't have got that far because she was walking. There was nobody out there. There was nothing there. It's just desert. and she vanished. She disappeared. So what happened is I went back to the Royal Pass Casino and I asked the security. I said, "Look, I'm worried. This blonde lady." He asked me how she was dressed, and I said she looked old school. She had on overalls. Part of the top of the overall was down. She had a tube top. She was dressed old school. She had on overalls once again, and a tube top, which you don't really see girls dressed like that anymore. She had long blonde hair. So he looked on the screen, there was nothing. He said, "There's nobody that fits that description here." So as I go back out to the car, once again I notice all these trucks going by. No cars, just big, huge semis on their way to wherever to drop their load off. So I said, "Man, I was the last one seen with this girl. If something happens to her, I'm gonna be blamed because the cameras at the McDonald's in the parking lot saw her get in my car, so I was really worried. So I drove back to the McDonald's. When I get there, I go inside. I park my car. It's all full of dust because we were out in the desert. And I look in the McDonald's. She's nowhere in there. I sit down and look out at the parking lot to see if I see her. And I see a van pull up. And the van didn't pull over by where all the nice cars were parked. He pulled up over here where I was parked. My dusty Buick was parked. He parked next to me, and that van was full of dust as well. It looked dirty, like the windshield you could see was all kinds of dust on it, like my car. And they came in. There was two of them. One went to the counter and one sat down to wait for his partner. They were. I could see corner on the side of the van. So I explained to the gentleman there. I said to the officer, I said, "Look, I picked up this girl. Excuse me, sir, can I ask you a question? I know you're Metro." And he's like, "Yeah, well, shoot, what's wrong? What's going on?" And I told him I picked up this girl and went out. And so he told me, after running the story by him that she vanished, he's like, "Don't read too far into that." He said, "Those were probably college kids pranking you." Out there in the desert. I said, "Sir, she wasn't a college girl. This girl was older. She was in her 30s." And I says, there was nobody, there was no kids out there. There was no cars. There was nothing there. So I go, she just vanished. So he said, "Well, give me your phone number. If let me know where more or less you dropped her off, and we'll go check it out." So I told him, "Hey, you go as far as the Royal Pass Casino, and you get off right there where the last highway, and you go like 5 minutes down the road there by passing the railroad pass, and there's a little dirt road." And I more or less I explained to him where, and he said, "Well, if we hear anything, give me your phone number, and once again, if we hear anything, we'll call you." I said, "All right." I gave him my phone number, and as I was leaving, he goes, "It's funny that you mentioned it out in the desert." He said, "Because we've been out in the desert looking for blonde prostitutes that are getting picked up and murdered out in the desert." Look, I get a chill just now thinking about it. He said, "Yeah, blonde girls are getting picked up out on the strip, the prostitutes, and they're getting murdered by a serial killer. And we've been out in the desert looking for, remains of these girls." And man, I was like, "Wow, man, that's too heavy." Anyway, years go by, never heard from the police. Um, I'm reading the paper one day here in Vegas, and a dude that was working at the Hoover Dam, he was going to neighboring cities, Utah, Arizona, it's to Tri-City in California, Nevada, Nevada, Arizona, and California. Utah's a little further. Anyway, so, but he was going all the way out there, and he was murdering girls, and they pulled him over outside of the Hoover Dam. He was leaving. He was trying to make a run. He was running for it and making a run for it, and the highway patrol pulled him over, and they found a sack in his car that had $10,000 in cash inside on the floor of the car. While they were searching it, because they said, this dude looks pretty suspicious, because he was nervous when they pulled him over. So they found the bag of $10,000, and they asked him, "What's this?" And he's like, "Well, I'm leaving, so I need cash." So something triggered them to go in the trunk, and they opened it, and there was handcuffs back there. There was a gun. There was blindfolds. There was, that those balls that you stick in people's mouth, and you tie it on the back of their head so they can't talk or yell or scream. He had gags and blindfolds and handcuffs and plastic restraints that they use, like on prison yards when there's a riot. They'll use these restraints that are made of plastic because they've run out of handcuffs. They only have one pair of handcuffs on their belt, the COs. Anyway, so I was like, oh man. When I read that story, I was like, what the hell? So I posted it on Facebook, and this guy Rodrigo on my Facebook, I asked, why would the girl pick me if she was a spirit? Why out of everybody? And he's like, well, that story you wrote when you were a 15-year-old kid. He was from Long Beach too. He knew my story, and he's like, when you got shot as a 14-year-old kid and you flatlined because I got shot through the lung and the bullet lodged in my spine. It's still there to this day. Being a 14-year-old kid, I flatlined because it was just way too much trauma for a kid to endure, and I flatlined twice. So I did speak to some spirits when I was flatlined in the St. Mary's Hospital in Long Beach, California, where I got shot. It was a random drive-by. I tried to grab the gun because he was gonna shoot, and there was girls standing there, my homegirls and my homeboys, and I didn't want them to get shot. So I was between two cars peeing in the street. So I was nearest to that car that did the drive-by on us, and I tried to grab the gun, and he shot me through the lung, and I had a collapsed lung, so they had to put in a chest tube, and it was just too much trauma for me. When they opened my side and I looked, I could see my heart pumping through the hole. They brought a rib separator and they opened my side to stick the chest tube into my lung to drain the blood, and it was just too much trauma. So I flatlined it. I was saying, God, please let me die. They could hear me all the way up in the waiting room. My mom and my friends, my homies that were out in the waiting room while I was going through surgery. And the doctor, I remember him saying, I'm sorry, young man, but I can't even give you an aspirin because you're bleeding internally. And if I give you even anything for pain, you'll die of blood poisoning because you're bleeding internal. The blood's going into your lung, which made sense because I got shot through the lung. So all you could do is put an ice pack real quick, and he had a big nurse grab my arm. So when they cut me open, like I said, I could see my heart pumping and slid over when they brought the rib separator. When they brought the rib separator and they broke my rib cage open, the heart moved over and I could see it pumping. So I said, God, please let me die. I screamed as loud as I could. I'm only 14 years old. I can't take it. Please, I can't take this pain. Just let me die. So I flatlined. I remember seeing the little machine that was giving me my vitals. It just flatlined. Beep, like that, And I started feeling scared, and I said, God, I don't know where I'm at, but it's nothing but darkness. I could see nothing but darkness. Then two lights came on, and a kind-looking gentleman with like blondish, salt and pepper hair with color eyes. And my dad later told me that was my grandpa because he had blonde hair. He was from Spain. The name Zambrano comes from Zambran, Italy, a province. And so we have Italian, Spanish, and Mexican blood in my family. So my grandpa's parents were originally from Italy. They moved to Spain, and then my grandpa Zambrano was born in Spain. That's why he had blonde hair and blue eyes. And later he migrated to Mexico, and then to New Mexico after Mexico. New Mexico in the 1800s was still part of Mexico. It wasn't an American territory yet or a state of the United States. It was still under the Mexican flag. And he met my grandma there. She was Mexican native, and he married her, and then they moved to El Paso, and my dad was born there. So he told me my grandpa, and then my dad moved as a kid, 1911. He was born in El Paso. They moved to LA, and I remember him telling me he could rent a horse and buggy at the Grand Central Market for $1 a day. Him and my uncle Joe Zambrano, the one that died in Folsom. He was on death row, and then death row, the governor pardoned him. He went to Alcatraz, and then when they closed Alcatraz, they moved him to Old Folsom, and that's where he died of natural causes. He was on the death row, and they pardoned him, the governor. They changed his sentence from death to life imprisonment. Anyway, so that's another story. So anyway, um, so when this gentleman Rodrigo tells me the reason the spirits are comfortable talking with you is because when you flatline the story I read about you in Long Beach when you got shot, those spirits that you talk to, the kind looking gentleman that was telling you, Armandito, don't worry, where you're going is paradise. Take my hand, you're not alone, we're your family. That's when I say, God, please let me go back down there. I can see myself on the gurney, my friend, Gato, cat, he's on my Facebook, Trujillo, next to me, and my mom and them in the ER, in the ICU, where I was in a coma, I flatlined. I could see them standing there, the priest sprinkling holy water, reading out of the Bible. And when I opened my eyes, I could see all that from up there. When I opened my eyes, it was exactly like that. I remember even Kat saying, "Hey, he just opened his eyes. He's out of the coma." And the priest said, "Run, go get the nurse." And I remember him running, Gato, and coming back with the nurse. And the nurse told me, "Don't try to speak. You lost a lot of blood. Just lay there. A lot of blood. You just lay there. Don't try to talk." So anyway, my friend Rodrigo on Facebook said that story I read is because when you flatline, you went to the spiritual world for a minute. Your spirit doesn't die, from what I saw. My life flashed before my eyes. God let me see all the bad things I've done in my life as a 14-year-old kid, which wasn't very much, and all the good things I had done. And I see my spirit was not dying. It was going somewhere else. Like I said, those two people, the gentleman with the colored eyes and the blonde hair, my grandpa, I was told later that it was probably him. He had died way before I was born, so I never met him. My dad told me that was my grandpa Zambrano. Anyway, so um, when I opened my eyes, they ran and called the nurse. So Rodrigo had read that story and he said, well, when you flatline, you went to the spiritual world once again for a minute. And that's why this spirit, that girl in the desert that vanished on you, she was a spirit. She felt comfortable communicating with you. And she was probably trying to tell you where she was buried. And I said, you know what, Rodrigo, that makes a lot of sense. Now I understand why she picked me. And that's about it. I just want to share that with you guys, all right? Take care.